Hey everyone, welcome back to Awful Stories. It's Matt here, and make sure to drop a like and subscribe to not miss your daily fix on Reddit stories. Let's jump into our first post in the Off My Chest subreddit, titled I Just Caught My Girlfriend in Bed with My Dad. To start, I, 22M, have been with my soon to be ex girlfriend, Kate, 21F, for just shy of 3 years. Our relationship throughout those years has been amazing. She had always been kind, supportive, open, and honest with me. We went on dates often. Our sex life was great. We had very few arguments. And when we did disagree, we managed to communicate and come to an understanding before long. I believed our relationship was healthy and loving, but apparently I was wrong. About a week ago, I started to notice that Kate had become very touchy about me being on or around her phone. This was odd because she had always let me use her phone to make calls if mine was dead or unavailable. She'd even downloaded games for me to play on her phone so she could watch her shows without being interrupted. Recently, though, she began snapping at me when I asked to borrow her phone, or she'd snatch it out of my hand if I so much as moved it away from the edge of the counter so it wouldn't fall. Whenever I questioned her behavior, she brushed it off, saying she was just in a bad mood. Her constant dismissal of my confusion started to irritate me, so I asked if she was hiding anything from me. That led to an argument. She accused me of not trusting her and of calling her unfaithful. She even started to get physical, at which point I shut the argument down and told her to sleep in the guest bedroom. She was angry, but I told her we'd talk about it in the morning. When we did talk, she apologized for her behavior and offered me her phone. I told her I trusted her and didn't need to go through it. And to be honest, I did trust her. I thought her outburst was due to stress at work. Clearly, that was foolish of me. The next day, I noticed she had a missed call from my father. I had never known my father to like Kate or even have her number. In fact, I was convinced they disliked each other. At almost every family event, they would argue or make snarky remarks at each other until we ended up leaving due to the tension. So, I asked Kate why my father had called her. She froze and mumbled an excuse about him planning something for my birthday. But since my father and I were never close, I couldn't understand why he would do that. Still, I played it off and went about my day. The following night, I texted her to say I had a late shift and would be back around 10 p.m. We were dismissed early due to an incident involving our manager. So I was heading home by 7 p.m. I tried calling her, but her phone was off. I assumed it had run out of battery or that she'd turned it off, something she does often at home. When I got home, I noticed my father's car parked 2 houses down. I tried calling him, but his phone was also off, which was strange because my mother likes him to keep it on since she's handicapped and often needs to reach him. I assumed my mother was with him, so I quietly opened the door to surprise her, as I hadn't seen her in a while. Instead, I walked in on my girlfriend bent over the kitchen counter, with my father behind her. They both froze and immediately started yelling, insisting it wasn't what it looked like, and that they could explain. I locked the door from the outside and left, heading straight to a friend's house. Since then, they've both been blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me not to say anything to anyone. Quite frankly, I'm disgusted. Disgusted by my father, who's turning 60 next month and has my mother to care for, and disgusted by Kate, who was sleeping with my father for who knows how long. I honestly just want to throw up or scream. But what worries me most is how my mother will handle this. She depends heavily on my father and adores him. How should I go about this? I don't need closure or to confront them. I don't want to know how their disgusting relationship started or how long it's been going on. I just need advice on how to handle this situation without making a bigger mess than there already is. Thank you for reading. Okay, this is jaw dropping to say the least. The thing that hits me most about OP's story is how completely obliterated his sense of home must feel right now. Walking in expecting a quiet night, and instead finding your dad and your girlfriend together in your kitchen, is the kind of betrayal that doesn't just hurt, it scrambles your entire understanding of who your people are. It's not just cheating, it's your partner and your parent teaming up in the most violating way possible. That's a double betrayal that cuts in a place regular breakups or affairs don't even reach. If this were me, I don't think I'd be chasing explanations either. How long has this been going on? And how did it start? Would just be self torture at that point. The only things that would matter to me are 1. Getting away from both of them to protect what's left of my sanity, and 2. Figuring out what to do about my mom. The fact that she's handicapped and deeply dependent on a man who's doing this behind her back makes the situation feel even more disgusting. It puts OP in this awful position where staying silent feels like betraying her, but speaking up feels like dropping a bomb on someone already vulnerable. In terms of what to do, the way I see it, OP is not responsible for the mess. His dad and ex are. Telling his mom the truth isn't causing a bigger mess. It's refusing to help maintain a lie that she's living under. If I were in his shoes, I'd probably give my dad one very direct, one-time conversation. You tell her soon, in your own words, or I will. I'm not covering for you. Then I'd emotionally prepare to support my mom however I realistically can, while also setting some serious boundaries for myself so I don't get dragged into being their therapist or mediator. Whatever happens next, I'd also be okay with going low or no contact with both my father and my ex for as long as I need. Because after something like that, they don't automatically get access to me just because we share DNA or history. Higuro said, "Your father has probably already said something to your mother, most likely a lie meant to make her doubt you. Have your girlfriend pack her bags. She can stay anywhere else. If she refuses to leave, stay with a friend for now. Your mom's situation is harder since she's in a more vulnerable position. Ultimately, it's up to her whether she wants to stay or leave, but let her know that she can stay with you or that you'll help her move her things out if she has somewhere else she can go. I assume you're in a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know her personality, but given her disability and the length of their marriage, she might feel more inclined to stay. It's best not to pressure her to leave. Just focus on supporting each other. Please remind her that she isn't lesser, that she doesn't deserve this, and that your father had no right to betray her. Just like your girlfriend had no right to betray you. You both deserve better than this, and I'm truly sorry it happened. I'm worried your father might try to justify his actions by claiming he needed to be cared for, rather than doing the caring, to guilt your disabled mother into excusing him. But there's no excuse for cheating, especially with your son's girlfriend." To this, Zippo said, "As a disabled woman who had a cheating and abusive ex, these were the exact excuses he used. I found her underwear and fake fingernails in my house after I came back from being sick in the hospital. Scum of the earth. People like that deserve to be cut off entirely from anyone and everyone they've lied to. There's no excuse to justify being an awful human being. OP will unfortunately be scarred for life by this, just as I was. And those women in my case were only friends, not even my mother. I can't imagine how much worse this must feel. Hopefully, in time, he'll learn to trust again. But both he and his mom should get out and stay far away from them." Update. Following someone's advice, I asked my mother to lunch. After some small talk, I told her about the situation. She was understandably upset and in denial, as my father had already spoken to her, and claimed that I was still holding a grudge, a story for another time. He told her I would likely come up with a lie to turn her against him for revenge. But after I showed her the messages he and Kate had sent afterward, she was distraught and visibly angry about the whole ordeal. I then asked if she would be comfortable with me sending an email to our family members and to Kate's parents and siblings. While she was a little reluctant, she said she didn't want backlash from his side of the family for leaving him. So, I went ahead and did it. I sent an email explaining the situation and stating that my mother and I would be going no contact with both Kate and my father, and low contact with anyone who gave us grief for our decision. My mother is now staying with her older sister, while I'm staying with a close friend until we can arrange a stable living situation for the both of us. Now onto the actual update. After the email was sent, there was radio silence for a day or two before both my mother and I were bombarded with a mix of messages. I'll summarize the most important ones below. Kate's parents. They were furious, accusing me of spreading lies about their daughter and threatening to sue me for defamation. I then sent them the screenshots from both Kate's and my father's messages. They left me on scene for a couple of days before replying. Eventually, they told me they wouldn't sue, but would appreciate it if I kept the situation quiet. My father, he was the first to message my mother, trying to convince her that I had faked the messages and was being petty and dishonest. When she refused to believe him, he accused her of cheating and looking for a way out of their marriage, something completely untrue and nearly impossible for her, as she struggles to get around on her own. He later apologized, claiming he'd said those things out of frustration and asked to see her. When she declined, he once again accused her of cheating and abandoning him. My paternal grandparents, their message was surprisingly supportive. They apologized for his behavior and told my mother that if she needed support, they would be there for her. They also informed us that they were disowning my father and going no contact with him. My maternal grandparents, their response was the opposite. Despite being the ones who raised my mother, they told her that because of her injury and inability to meet her husband's needs, it was understandable that he had sought fulfillment elsewhere. They admitted that it was wrong because it was my partner, but said Kate had been available and that my mother should forgive him and move on. They even said that my mother needed my father more than he needed her. Kate's two older sisters, they reached out to thank me for telling them what happened and said that if my mother or I ever needed help, especially regarding my mother's health, they'd be willing to assist us. One of them works as an elderly caretaker and the other as a physiotherapist, so their offer genuinely meant a lot. These aren't all the messages, but they're the most relevant ones. I'll make a part 2 so this post doesn't get too long. Ms. Zen said, "I'm floored that your maternal grandparents took that stance. Wow, your mother deserves so much better. Thankfully, it sounds like your mother has some wonderful support from you, her siblings, and her in laws. I'm glad you're working through this together, and even more relieved that you found out before the baby was born or before you married your girlfriend. Best wishes to you and your mother, OP." Update 2. My mother and I gave ourselves a few days to get through all the messages and phone calls. We blocked my maternal grandparents as well as my father. My mother hadn't blocked him yet. I contacted my landlord and real estate agent, briefly explained the situation, and told them I was no longer living at the property and wanted my name removed from the lease. Luckily, our lease was about to be renewed the following week. The next day, they informed Kate that I had taken my name off the lease for the next term, and that if she couldn't take on my portion of the rent, she would have 3 months to vacate the property. I don't know exactly how she reacted, but based on what her parents did next, it's safe to say she wasn't happy. They contacted me, asking if, despite everything, I would be willing to cover her rent just for this month because she doesn't have the money right now. Obviously, I declined and told them I no longer had anything to do with her. They then told me she was pregnant with my child and needed assistance from the father of her baby, calling it a final goodbye. I couldn't help but laugh and told them that if she was pregnant, I most definitely wasn't the father, and that if she needed help from her baby's father, she should contact my father. Then I hung up and blocked them. On a brighter note, my mother and I have just put a down payment on a house together. We're also looking into hiring a caregiver to help her when I'm working or traveling out of state. My father has tried calling us from multiple phone numbers and even had other family members attempt to persuade my mother to meet up with him to talk. Because of that, we've both gotten new phone numbers to avoid his drama. I also heard from a friend that Kate is trying to hire a lawyer to claim child support from me. Apparently, she hasn't had any success. She has no proof that I'm the father and refuses to take a DNA test for the baby. Edit. I forgot to mention earlier that Kate is apparently 5 weeks pregnant. We haven't been intimate for just under 2 months, so it's highly unlikely the baby is mine. If somehow it is, I'll take responsibility and pay child support, but I want proof first. I'm not giving her money for a baby that may not be mine. Final update. Hi all. I apologize for taking so long to update. A lot has happened over the past almost year. To cut a long story short, my mother now has her own house that I pay for. She no longer has contact with my father, and she's officially divorced him. She also has a full-time carer now. As for Kate, she was indeed pregnant, but thankfully, the baby wasn't mine, or my father's for that matter. Unfortunately, she lost the baby in her second trimester, and of course, blamed me for the stress I supposedly caused her. I no longer have any contact with her either. My father has been completely cut off by his family and friends. He was also fired from his job after it came out that he hadn't only been sleeping with my ex, but had also had an affair with one of his colleagues' partners, and was found with explicit pictures of his eldest brothers, 40M, youngest daughter, 20F, on his phone and laptop. No one knows how he got them. A huge thank you to everyone who messaged and commented. You've all been such an incredible source of support. I'm sorry I haven't been able to reply to each of you individually, but every message, whether it was kind words, check ins about my mother and me, or just moral support, even as recently as today, has meant the world to us. My mother also wanted to say a big thank you for your kind words and well wishes, and she's sending all of you a big virtual hug. I'm not sure if this update was too vague, but if you'd like more context, I can edit the post or answer questions in the comments. Available Effects said, "Glad to hear it, man. Keep looking after yourself and your mother. You both need it. What did she say to you besides blaming you for the miscarriage? Did she apologize for the baby not being yours? And what has your father said to you since then?" To this OP said, she actually hadn't planned on telling either me or my father that the baby wasn't related to us. Her mother was the one who reached out to me to explain the situation and said that Kate had planned to tell me the baby was mine in order to demand child support. Sure enough, Kate contacted me the next day and tried to claim the baby was mine, even sending a poorly forged email as proof. I told her that her mother had already told me the truth, that the baby wasn't mine or my father's, and she completely lost it. I blocked her number right after that. I'm not sure if her mother faced any backlash for telling me. Then, about 2 or 3 months later, Kate messaged me again using her mother's phone. It was a long message where she went off about losing the baby and blamed me for stressing her out and for not stepping up or being a decent human being. I haven't heard much from my father directly, but my mother has heard plenty about him through relatives and a few wives of his former colleagues who still check in on her because of her health. The last message he sent me was some nonsense about how it wasn't his fault and that Kate seduced him. He's blocked now too, and from what I hear, his life is falling apart.